Good afternoon to all our listeners and viewers of the NDC Heartbeat program. I hope you're having a beautiful Sunday afternoon today. We do apologize for the slight delay in start this afternoon, but electronic stuff keeps happening. We're going to take a short break and we will show you part of our underground coverage and get right back to you.
Previously on the Heartbeat.
Generally, I want to say here that we are in the hurricane season. There's nothing that we can do to prevent the storms. We can't prevent them from occurring, but what we can do is take steps to ensure that we are prepared and that we reduce the impact of these events on our lives. So I urge the population, I urge everyone to do what is necessary. Ensure that you have a disaster supplies kit with all the items that we spoke about, the food, the water, the radio, all those things. Ensure you have those things available, and ensure that you have a family disaster plan, so that if there is a disaster, these are the things that we will do as a family. Ensure that you have that in place. And if as individuals we take all the preparedness measures that are necessary and available to us, then our communities would be safer, and then our country as a whole, right, we would reduce the impact of the hurricane or the storm. So it starts with the individual, and we go up from there.
NDC Heartbeat program, and very warm welcome to those who are on Spice Capital Radio, who is joining us for the second Sunday this time around, and of course those who are on WeFM and Vibes FM. Well, this is just an opportunity for me to say to all of you out there, thank you so very much on behalf of the leadership of the NDC for supporting and voting for the National Democratic Congress. So many thanks have to go out to so many different persons. I will probably find myself in trouble if I start naming names. But a great thank you from the leadership, from the political leader and his team. And it is now transition period. And helping us with this conversation today will be our General Secretary of the party, Mr. Larry Barry, and he is online and will be joining me in the discussion this afternoon. Larry, good afternoon to you. Good of you to be again on Heartbeat.
Thank you very much, Terry. Thank you very much for the invitation and for the engagement today, the second historic Sunday since June 23rd. And while you thought, Terry, it was too much to mention, permit me to join you on behalf of the leadership of the National Democratic Congress to indeed thank all who supported this effort and those stakeholders. There were some critical stakeholders in this journey. And Terry, it would not be difficult to thank, firstly, the Almighty. You see, the Almighty answered the prayers of many who bruise their knees day in, day out, week in, week out, month in, month out. There were people meeting the political leader, then Prime Minister now, and issuing that they were saying to him, we are praying. God will answer our prayers. Enough is enough. We need change. So we must thank all these prayer warriors. We had prayer warriors in St. David and St. Patrick, in Carriacou, and in the town of St. George. That is our first thank you. We also want to thank some important stakeholders, Terry, for without them, our cause may not have had the result we now enjoy. We want to thank the National Executive Council of the National Democratic Congress for the journey that that council started, particularly under the leadership of Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell, then political leader. That journey built upon the shoulders of those who carried the party to October 31st. Many a person carried the party, carried its fortunes, its failings, carried the challenges forward, coming out of the last 10 years. So we are standing on the shoulders of many. And on those shoulders, Prime Minister today, political leader then, Deacon Mitchell, stood so that we could carry this victory. So we want to thank all who served the National Executive Council of the National Democratic Congress and those who currently serve from the elections at the convention on October 31st, 2021. We want to thank those who served in the national campaign team. You see, Terry, we continue the business of the party while preparing A, for an election, and B, for governance of the country. It is interesting that on May 14th, Saturday, May 14th, 2022, in St. Mark, at the Waltham Secondary School, St. Mark Secondary School in Waltham, while we were meeting, the governing body of the party is called the General Council. The General Council was meeting on Saturday, May 14th in Waltham, St. Mark, at the St. Mark Secondary School. And the governing body of the party is the accountability forum of the party. So at that meeting, the elected officers at the convention on October 31st, 2021, the elected officers were given the first report of our accountability and stewardship of the party at that General Council. And while we were preparing for an election and preparing for governance of the country, we were at the heart of the party's accountability structure, the General Council, reporting then. And for the first time, we had 4 of our diaspora entities or diaspora support groups, or the chapters, Florida, the UK, Canada, and the New York chapter was also in that General Council for the first time in the history of this party. Those the support groups in the diaspora were also with the delegates in attendance of the party's General Council. We reported to the delegates, to the rank and file of the party, and while they're giving an account of our stewardship since October 31st, the announcement of the general elections came. So when the general elections date was announced, we were already ready, so that on May 15th, right on this very heartbeat, my first words to the country then was, we are ready. We were ready because already we had a national campaign team constituted, and we already had the makings and the details and the breaking out of a 21-day election plan. So when the announcement came, we smiled. We knew we had the opportunity to refine the 21-day plan into a 35-day plan. And therefore, when I said on Sunday, May 15th, heartbeat, we were ready, I knew we were better ready than the NNP then, even though they announced the election date and not us. I indicated then we will win because we had enough from the momentum that the country gave us. It was the country that gave us the momentum. And the country gave us the momentum that political leader then and Prime Minister, now Deacon Mitchell, was able to carry forward. In other words, the country handed him a momentum and he carried it forward to this outcome. And that's why thanking the national campaign team, having thanked the National Executive Council, and having thanked the Lord and those prayer warriors, we can now come today, join in with the political leader, then Prime Minister, who came on Sunday, 26 June, in the first heartbeat post the election, to join with the Prime Minister, to join with the minister, other candidates then who became MPs and senators now, to thank the nation, So having thanked the Lord and thanked the National Executive Council and thanked the national campaign team, we can now thank the country. We have gone around the country thanking the voters. We have then set up thank you events and appreciation events across the 15 constituencies for campaign teams, the people who knock doors. I know that, for example, on Wednesday gone, St. Andrews Northeast, had a beautiful thank appreciation event then for the campaign team and the constituency campaign workers. I know last night in St. John's, the constituency there, campaign team there, had an appreciation event thanking people and an embrace of the work to have gotten us this far. Other constituencies are having their thank you appreciation events for the campaign teams, and we're going to continue that. We want to thank other critical stakeholders. We want to thank the Royal Grenadier Police Force. They were a critical stakeholder in the journey since the announcement on May 14. They were the stakeholder we engaged with consistently for our motorcades, our constituency pocket meetings, for our national rallies. We want to also thank them for their flexibility, their adjustment, the ease with which they were able to accommodate the National Democratic Congress as we prepared and had to make changes along the way. We really want to thank the RGPF for their work. We want to also thank the many supporters and well-wishers who came forward to build the Susu campaign. When there were those who were being flippant, it was the Susu campaign that got us this far. We want to thank the diaspora. How much more thank you can we give? There is never enough thanks to our diaspora, in particular, those in Canada, the UK, Florida, South Florida in particular, and the Vanguard support entity, Vanguard support that we get year in, year out, week in, week out, month in, month out from the New York chapter. They has carried a big part of this party's burdens and fortunes on their shoulders, and we are forever grateful to the New York chapter. We want to also thank the stalwarts of this party. We want to thank former Prime Minister in particular for being a guardian and a soldier for this cause. Former Prime Minister, former political leader, Tillman Thomas, we tip our hat to you for coming through every day in every way, staying course, guiding and guarding us to keep steady, keep focused, keep the Lord in our sights, in our thoughts, and to being on the ground with us, knocking doors, being on the platform with us, spreading the gospel of the National Democratic Congress. So we built a campaign, Terry, on transformation, but transformation was invested in the very heartbeat, in the very team you have in studio. That team, led by our PRO, is part of this transformative ethic that we saw coming through. Never before has so much been accorded, so much extensive presentation of our campaign, crisscrossing various elements of social media, various elements of mainstream media, and our campaign on the ground. But a lot of credit to the Heartbeat team, Young Aquino and Neela, and the team in the studio, and the team external to the studio who support the Heartbeat. We have gotten so much commendation for the work we do through dispensing it, disclosing it, publishing it online. So we want to also thank, in particular, the Heartbeat team and the PRO team that helped to spread the NDC message. Terry, you took an initiative. I know it was your initiative, so I want to highlight special thanks to you for that initiative you took with the getting the various pocket meetings aired on those 2-hour segments, 2.5-hour segments on Spice Capital that we have a accommodation and arrangement with. Because I recall, Terry, you had to use the innovation that you, Paul, and others had to work out. And it was worked out in the end, where I don't recall ever that the NDC was able to
to air 5 pocket meetings on any given night during the campaign, and the innovative model that you all came up with that people probably don't know. It sounded great because I listened many a night, listening to the pocket meetings, and persons probably were not aware that you had to coordinate 5 and 6 people with a special WhatsApp line to stand 3 and 4 feet from the speakers. But the clarity with which these pocket meetings came through was quite something. Terry, that was your initiative. And I want to thank you because it made a big difference. This was a SUSU campaign that also turned out to be a SUSU model of mainstream and social media. The little bits added up, and we got to get the economy. They like to talk about economies of scale in economics. Well, we must talk to them about the economies of scale and scope, where you add up all the small pieces to get a blossoming and a mushrooming of our message and our activities. We also want to give a lot of credit to the PR team for the town hall. The town halls became a game changer in staying on message and engaging the Grenadian people. And all of that come together with a man who has given some of the most has made some of the most persuasive cases for the development and transformation of this country, the Honorable Prime Minister, Deacon Mitchell, to whom we owe extensive gratitude for his calm, reassurance, poise. Yeah, for those of us who sit next to him at the party level, and for those of us who are transition leads with the new cabinet, his poise and his reassuring posture is very, very, it has given us a lot to take from. It has helped us maintain the confidentiality that you have seen, the undergirding and abiding trust in which we are now going to repose in the Grenadian people. For those of you who voted for the National Democratic Congress, this is not your time to withdraw and say we voted for you all. You must now become active participants in defending your vote. This is a call from the Prime Minister that every Grenadian, those of us who voted NDC, this is the opportunity for you to defend your vote. Yeah? And defending your vote is to call on us to be accountable, demand accountability, and demand the commitment we have given in our transformative agenda in the manifesto, one of the finest policy documents that you can find around that development approach is found in that document. Yeah. So we wanna call on every voter of the NDC. This is not time for you to stand back and watch. This is time for you to stay active. The same way you use thousands of views in our campaign period, then we must get thousands of comments about our development course and to challenge the accountability that we have committed to. That is the call now we make for everyone who voted for the NDC. And those who did not vote for the NDC, you must now double your demand for accountability. For those who did not vote for the NDC, our call to you is to double your demand for accountability. Since you did not have that interpretation of our cause, you must now be part of those persons guarding and be the guardians of this Grenada that we want to build and continue to build and transform. So Terry, this, I would say, is a thank you overview, building on the thank you that came from the Prime Minister and the team last Sunday, and to go forward at the level of the party with some of the work we have set out. So we have set out some important work for the party. We're going to continue to build a party on the SUSU resource mobilization plan. So we had a SUSU campaign. Our supporters, it is now time for you to continue the SUSU resource mobilization arrangements. The SUSU mobilization arrangements is going to include those of you who are members of the party. We have our annual, well, those of you who are members of the party, your commitment is a very small commitment, but very important commitment to pay your monthly dues. And as we expand the development of the party and as we increase membership, and the membership drive is going to continue endlessly. It's a very small monthly contribution that many of you can pay quarterly, not biennially, but biannually, meaning twice annually, and so on. We have critical, structural, institutional aspects of the party's work that we do not trifle with. We do not surrender, we do not sacrifice, and we hardly ever compromise. The work of the NEC, the National Executive Council, we don't compromise. The work of the General Council, the governing body of the party, we don't compromise. The next General Council is going to look at an evaluation of the performance of the party. That next General Council is expected sometime in August, early September. It is also, according to the constitution of the party, the General Council also sets and designs and develops and prepares and works out the next convention, which is due on or before the end of October, on or before October 30th, 2022. So those are the next two big institutional pieces that the party is going to undertake. At the constituency level, we have 4 constituencies whose constituency executive term expired. So we would have elections for new constituency executives, new constituency branch executives, St. Andrews Northeast, Carriacou and Petit Martinique, St. Andrews Southwest, and we also have elections due in St. Mark. So we have set out to have new constituency branch executive elections in those 4 constituencies on or before the 21st of August. And the constitutional arrangements for those elections, 30% of the membership at minimum forms a quorum. Members must be financial as at the time that they, as at the time ascertaining their financial status. And that's why I started earlier, Terry, by saying, must pay your monthly dues. Yeah, you must pay your monthly dues so that you are financial when the General Council and the convention sits and meets. And therefore, paying your monthly dues is important. Yeah, so our General Council is forthcoming. Our convention is forthcoming. We have branch elections in 4 constituencies. Again, Carriacou and Petit Martinique, St. Andrews Southwest, St. Andrews Northeast, and St. Mark. And then we have by-elections. We have by-elections for 1 or 2 vacancies in at least 4 constituencies. So we have by-elections in St. John's for the office of vice chair there, and by-elections in 1 or 2 other constituencies. So the by-elections, how they occur is unlike the constituency branch elections. The by-elections occur by convening a general meeting of the branch, and the same procedures apply with respect to the financial status of members. You must be financial, A, to hold office on the branch executive, and B, to be able to vote. So you'll find some of that work is going to be undertaken as we go forward. In addition, our membership drive continues across the 15 constituencies. The requirements to become a member of the party are quite straightforward. We have 2 levels, we have 4 levels of membership, but the 2 most active levels of membership is our youth arm. You can become a member of the NDC by virtue of the NDC's constitution from age 13, and the age profile for membership on the youth arm or within the party under the youth arm is 13 to age 40. 13 to age 40. And of course, the other membership of the party, 18, it must be 18 years and older. However, once you are within the youth arm, when you become 18 years and older, you can hold any position in any part of the party upon turning age 18. So that's the next level of membership, being 18 years and older. Of course, you can't be part of another political party or hold dual membership in another political organization. Must be age 18 and is prepared to accept the ideals. There's a small entrance or subscription fee, and then of course your monthly fee. We are preparing your membership documentation. The membership documentation is going to include who the chairperson of your branch is, the the party constitution provides for new fresh elections of the branch executive every year. In fact, in the NDC, the only position that is not subject to challenge is the position of political leader for 3 years once the party is in opposition. Once the party is in government, the position of political leader and prime minister is not subject to challenge for the entire duration that the prime minister holds office. So outside of the political leader in opposition, the position cannot be challenged for 3 years. And in government, the position cannot be challenged for 5 years or for the term. So as we proceed to secure the development of this country over the next 10 to 15 years, the Constitution provides for the position of the Prime Minister not to be subject to challenge. However, for example, Section 17, Section 18 of the Constitution does provide for where other circumstances may arise for interpretations or determinations of change. The Constitution does provide for those options. But outside of that, the position of the Prime Minister and political leader while in office is not subject to challenge. That said, all other positions are subject to fresh elections annually. So the elected officers of the party, our positions are subject to challenge annually at the convention, and at the branch level, again, elections are annually for the executive.
Well, Larry,
that in a nutshell.
Let me thank you for your very warming presentation this afternoon. But I want you to touch on the way forward for the party and what is expected of the MPs in their constituency, and what message do you wish to share to the supporters out there, the workers of the party? In other words, let's talk about the way forward.
The way forward continues to be party building, party strengthening the structures and institutions of the party, some amount of amendments of the party constitution to strengthen it. The Prime Minister, according to the NDC Constitution, will convene among the committees is a parliamentary committee convened and chaired by the Prime Minister. And that party committee of MPs will then have a critical role in grounding the policy agenda and grounding the work of the party at the constituency level. So it outlines what some of that work would be, and it's typical, ensuring that the party structures and institutions are strengthened or polling division groups. Critical part of that work are constituency branch executives, critical part of that work. When we came to office in October, we had a quarter of our constituencies having offices. Now all 15 constituencies have offices. So the work to mobilize resources to maintain our offices and to staff them is part of the way forward. The MPs are required to remain grounded and focused to ensure that no amount of aloofness and disengagement with the ground is countenanced. And that is a critical role of the Prime Minister and the Parliamentary Committee, because it is to the extent that the Prime Minister guards against the members of Parliament, disassociated and disconnecting from the ground, is going to make the difference. So that's a critical part of the way going forward. The MPs are also expected to the nation and to the diaspora to review and constantly monitor the constituency manifesto and the constituency plans, set targets for achieving the constituency manifesto commitments and the integration of the national manifesto commitments. Is going to be a very important part of the work going forward. Ensuring that ensuring especially at the constituency level, the accountability systems and structures that the government has in place and that the party has built its own mandates on are adhered to. And one of those, we frown upon, condemn corruption in all its forms and guises. We frown upon and condemn abuse of office, abuse of authority, abuse of power. We frown upon and condemn any of our MPs or senators using their office for personal or other forms of gain. That's part of the work going forward. Ensuring that the party continues to defend and advance the various stakeholder interests from the constituency and the communities. We have a responsibility to govern. We have a responsibility to govern. We are responsible for ensuring the constituency, the community, the parish enjoys the participatory approach to governance and development, the inclusivity. There is not a space for isolation or condemnation of those who see us differently.
Note, Larry, I'm getting a signal from my producers that we need to go take a break. So we'll get back to you in just a moment.
Indeed.
We take a short break at this time and come back to our listeners and viewers in a moment.
My clarion call in my political campaign and that of my colleagues was for Grenadians to choose a different direction that would transform and move the people of Petite Martinique, Carriacou, and Grenada forward. We campaigned on a vision where we wanted to create a sustainable, equitable, and prosperous nation for all. We envisaged a nation, and we believe that this is a time of choosing where we must stand resolute to enable every little boy and every little girl, every man, every woman, where every citizen who ever dared to dream and look before them, that they should do, that they would know, that all have an equal opportunity to realize their potential and enjoy the fruits of the labor, without fear of discrimination or to be told by critics and naysayers that their pursuit can't be done or it is too hard or too difficult to achieve. We envisage a nation and believe that it is a time of choosing where we must be transformed into an eco-friendly, fair, equitable, dynamic, prosperous, and stable democracy capable of sustaining a high quality of life for our people.
Welcome back to all our listeners and viewers of the NDC Heartbeat program, to all of you who are listening on radio, Spice Capital Radio, WeFM, Vibes FM. We thank you very much for joining the Heartbeat today. And indeed, those who are online on the NDC Facebook page, we encourage you to share the live. We will be continuing our conversation with the General Secretary of the party, Mr. Larry Barry, but we're going to be going online. We're going to be taking telephone calls just before we end the program. We at least will give you 10, 12 minutes so that you can share your own views with respect to all that is happening right now. So welcome back, Larry.
Yes.
Let us continue the conversation, and I want you to touch on the point of unification of all our people in Grenada as the new transformative team led under Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell progress towards transformation and moving Grenada forward. Unity is very, very key in achieving these objectives. So Larry,
Yes,
over
indeed.
to you.
Yes, indeed. When the political leader, then Prime Minister now, spoke to inclusion. He was building on the history of the NDC. We are at the heart. Our symbol is the heart. It's not by accident we're the heart. Our symbol is the heart. It's not by accident. May I remind the public that when the NDC came to office, having secured the most seats in the post-1984 elections. Remember, we came from a revolution. We had a Union Island Accord where NDP and a couple of small parties led by Dr. Francis Alexis, then former political leader and Prime Minister George Brizan, H.A. Blaze, and others went to Union Island to form one political party. We went, in 1987, there was a break from the NNP that comprised all these smaller parties. There was a break. George Brizan, Francis Alexis, Tillman Thomas, Kenny Lansing, and others broke away from the coalition then called the NNP in defense of workers' rights.
That NNP
Because
was led under Herbert Blaze.
H.A. Blaze. Mm-hmm. When that team I just mentioned broke away, it was in defense of public officers because you had a government of whom they were a part then going on a massive retrenchment of public officers so that they can begin the payment of public debt, which at the time the IMF had indicated some of the payments came due. And rather than looking at building the productive sectors of the economy as the revolution then had invested heavily in, the model then, which Dr. Francis Alexis, George Brizan et al. Objected to, was a model of retrenchment and increased taxation. Mm-hmm. So they left in defense of workers. And do you know the three categories of workers that they were about to take? They literally was about to behead hundreds of teachers, hundreds of public officers, especially those in the health sector, mm-hmm. and agriculture workers. The three parts of a country's soul were going to be decimated. And Dr. Francis Alexis, George Brizan et al. Said, we cannot be part of that. They left, they formed the NDC in October 1987. And by 1990, NDC got 7 seats. GULP got 2 or 3 seats. LNP got 2 or 3 seats. TNP. And then, of course, the NDC and the Edsel Thomas came over from the GULP to give us 8. But so we formed the government in 1990. And from 1990, the government kept, or at least included, persons opposed to the NDC in various sectors and in various boards and ministries and so on. Unlike what happened in 1995, when the NNP led by former Prime Minister Keith Mitchell took over and sent 5 PSs home in a flash, within days. Of course, in 2008, when we won, the very Nolan Cox, let me put on the record, when we won in 2008, the very Nolan Cox who ran against the Honorable Andy Williams, who was successful in the South, he campaigned for Elvin Nimrod then and was employed in the Ministry of Cargo and Diplomatic Affairs. And his position was untouched. He remained in that ministry. In other words, our inclusion record is without challenge. This NDC, led by the Honorable Deacon Mitchell, is opening up the government And one of the first major undertakings, we have already begun the designing, and have had several applications already, is the servant boards. So we are going to open up the government through that avenue for anyone in the country with the competence and skill sets who request to serve on many of the boards. The disclosure as to the, well, in fact, people have not waited on us to say which email to send it to and so on. Several. What I like is that our unity thrust is not, okay, so our unity thrust is built upon the shoulders of our founders, carried forward on the legacy of Tillman Thomas, carried further on the legacy of Honorable Deacon Mitchell. But this is the occasion when people wait for announcement. They're sending in applications across the board. I mean, Deputy Chairman of the party already said, Barry, I have a few. People in the ministry say, people sending, I got an email from a public officer said, look, I got an email from someone saying, I don't know who to send it to yet, but here is my CV. And here's the interest I have in serving on this board or that. You know, I got called from people in the media and so on. That is the unity. In other words, Terry and listeners and viewers, take the lead in building the unity focus. The lead that you have taken already, do the Mr. Killer. Run with it. If we have to catch up with you, we'll catch up with you. We've had a couple of sessions with the ministers and the transition leads that the Prime Minister has so skillfully and his chief advisor, chief head of the transition team. They have put together an excellent framework for having the ministers and so on settle in. And we're doing some of that work. And that too, we have gotten very good support and cooperation from PSs and other public officers and other technocrats who would have been openly opposed to the NDC. Openly opposed to the extent that we have seen persons already on traveling missions with the Prime Minister who have a different outlook to us. Positions have been maintained. In other words, the unity is not what we say, it is demonstrated by what we do.
Absolutely.
Look at the leader.
Let me just have you stick a pin there, and let me invite the general public, if they wish to call in and make a contribution, it's 423-7595. 423-7595 if you wish to call in at this time to make a contribution. Yes, Brother Larry,
So
let us
we
continue
do.
the chit-chat.
Yes, we do unity. We don't just talk unity. We do unity.
Yep.
And we have a demonstrated record of that in the very first 12 days. In the very first, today is the 10th, in the very first 10 and 7, very first 17 days, our demonstration of unity and inclusion is on display.
Well, I believe I can say that testimony to this since from 2019 up to
From
to date.
2019.
Let me extend an olive branch to all my friends who are on the other side to come on over to the NDC. Love and attention, this is where it resides. Let us unite our people, unite Grenada, and build Grenada forward. This is the
Terry,
message that I'm sending.
Let me join you to say, look, I said it on the Heartbeat program, and let me repeat. There might have been persons who left the NDC and went on the NNP's platform. But Terry, the hundreds of NDC supporters, NNP supporters, hundreds who came over to support the NDC, they did not go on NDC platform. They didn't ask to go and speak ill of the NNP. They came over.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them said, similar to what has happened in the UK when the Conservative won seats that was never ever won by the Conservative in Labour strongholds in the UK. Yeah, 100 years of politics in the UK. Labour won every time. And the Conservative under Boris Johnson, who, has departed the scene for lack of trust, for lack of accountability, and his inability to be honest and truthful. He has had to leave government. In other words, people have voted out the NNP in Grenada, not on the basis of performance, on the basis of trust.
Trust.
On the basis of accountability.
Very critical.
And while the former Prime Minister of the UK, who's still Prime Minister for the time being, did what many said, very good work. People are not always going to vote for you on the basis of your performance in terms of building roads or getting the country in and out of a pact, such as Brexit. If you're going to have rules where you're asking people to make sacrifice, you must make the sacrifice yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Or else they will not trust you. And when they don't trust you, they'll vote you out. So we see hundreds of projects in the last 3 or 4 months. People said it is too vulgar. So a lot of projects would not have made a difference for those that the public voted out. Hundreds of projects 6 months before an election will never be a model that any government should adopt. So that is to say, importantly, we want to continue the path of inclusivity and cooperation. We're not naive. We're not naive.
Very important interjection.
We're not naive. But Deacon Mitchell is a hybrid of some of the great statesmen of old. Former Prime Minister Nicholas Brafitt, former Governor General Sir Carlisle Glynn, former President of the Senate and Minister Joan Purcell, former Prime Minister and current guardian of the party, Tillman Thomas. They are a combination of all that's good and decent in public office. And Deacon Mitchell represents a hybrid, a consummation of all of the above, with a sharp intellect and a brilliant perceptive mind. So you're going to find inclusion and development of a country where all talents are going to be brought on. But we're not naive. We had an experience in 2008. Not this time. Not this time.
Indeed. Tell me, you must have witnessed the performance of Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell at the recent heads of government meeting in Suriname. What are your thoughts? What were your thoughts?
A breath of fresh air has blown through CARICOM. They welcome Honorable Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell as if they were waiting and could not wait no more. Mm-hmm. They poured over and poured out love and embrace. In fact, I saw comments from Antigua where some of the countrymen and countrywomen of that place, Antigua, with many beaches. Grenada have great beaches. Antigua have beaches on par. Antigua have beaches on par. Mm-hmm. If you want beach, go to Antigua. You won't get beach. It's a fantastic place. Of course, the historical ground for Brian Lara, double world record. It's a historical place. A man who liberated Black people in the diaspora, Viv Richards, with bat. It's a great place. Antigua is one of the greatest countries on earth. One of the smallest countries ever to challenge the United States in a forum on the rights to proceeds from online gambling, and had a successful run at challenging the mighty USA. Antigua is a great place. And many of the countrymen and women there, did take note of the admiration of Prime Minister Gaston Brown and his literal overpouring of wanting more and more of Prime Minister Honorable Deacon Mitchell. So that is an example. But his presentation was embracing of the CARICOM spirit. He continued the integration ethic that we all are standing behind, and he presented some important directions that Grenada is going to contribute to with respect to the forward march and development of the CARICOM Union.
Yes, indeed. Let me just remind our viewers and listeners the number is 423-7595. If you wish to make a contribution, there are just a few more minutes left. 423-7595. We're chatting here this afternoon with the General Secretary of the party, Mr. Larry Barry. Larry, coming
let me
out
add
of
quickly,
this...
Terry, let me add quickly. We did have a comment, a question for membership. We have, our membership is a very simple process. I've explained the process already. The youth application fee or subscription to become a member is only $10 EC. Of course, it is the currency in the diaspora as well, the equivalent. Subscription $20 for the adult membership or the general membership. We have two other categories of membership that we have not developed fully, associate member and so on. But for now, only $20 and $5 monthly, $10 if you're coming through the youth to join, and $5 monthly. You make the constitution of the party is on the party website. You just go to ndcgrenada.org. You go on the party website. You go down on the left. You see our constitution. You click it. There is an there are some amendments. So where you would see things like $3 for youth membership and $1 monthly. We did some amendments we did some revisions. That was approved in between 2001 and 2003. And that updated version is going to, together with some other amendments we have lined up, is going to go to the convention potentially in this October, and then next year convention, because the party constitution its final amendment could only take place at the party convention. At the general council, which is the governing body of the party, which is why I started there, because it's important that we understand the institutional arrangements and structures of the party that give it its life, its meaning. Because every Grenadian must be interested in NDC and NNP and any other political party's constitution, because it is the party that gives you your government. You've got to pay attention and get involved in party constitutions. You must, because it's a constitution that gives you, in other words, the prime minister you had today came through joining the party, campaigning among the delegates, going to a convention and being elected leader. And through that model, you have a prime minister today. So your interest in governance of a country must originate and situate in the interest of the party's constitution, its structures, its systems, its frameworks, its funding, its programs, its activities. Your leadership of your country comes through a party. There's no other avenue. We have had one experiment outside of the political process that gives a country its prime minister, which is through the membership of a party and a convention and an election at a convention. The only other option we experimented with is 1979. So every Grenadian must be interested in the constitution of a party.
Right. Larry, give me in 2 minutes.
Yes.
Larry, give me in 2 minutes. What are your thoughts so far with respect to the transformative arrangement of the new government? I know this is very early days, but you may have some insights just to share with the public as to what are some, or just a few items that have started the wheel, the transaction of, transformation.
It is an absolutely light, Terry. It is one of the Prime Minister told us in a meeting on Friday that he already got a call from a relative of a former minister of government in another CARICOM country, hailing and heralding this very novel, brilliant stroke by the Prime Minister to name transition leads, to have the ministers settle in the government. It is not typical. You would not find it in much places. And it is one of the brightest moments. Well, I don't know how much more bright moments we could have in 24 hours after becoming the Prime Minister, because in 24 hours after becoming the Prime Minister, and by 3 days in a public swearing in, he made the declaration that we're going to return the 11 days pay stolen from our public officers in 3 days. And do you know, through the transition arrangement and through his determination, the arrangements are already in place financially for the return of those monies.
Yes,
Yeah?
that was a major
So
one.
that's one thing. That's one thing. But the transitional arrangement and the transition leads, we have some of the finest former public officers, some of the finest in the country, providing transition lead support. In terms of reference to the transition leads, in brief, to assist we took oaths of secrecy, oaths of affirmation, in accordance with the requirements of the public service. We are sworn to secrecy in the receipt of government information and non-disclosure and consequences. So that has been signed on oath. And therefore, the terms of reference includes the receipt of briefs, of ministerial briefs, helping the ministers to...
We got to do the wrap up now one time because time has caught up on us, Larry.
Yes.
So if you can just wrap up at the same time.
Yes, the transition lead system, brilliant by the Prime Minister. And what it has done is has quickly gotten the ministers who are unfamiliar and have no history in public service to quickly grasp the public service. We want to thank some of the permanent secretaries who did briefs and made presentations, and then the transition lead, all of whom have serious public service acumen. People like me, of course, 18 years in the Grenada Public Service, 3 years in the Trinidad Public Service. I served there in the office of 2 prime ministers there and so on. So I'm able to bring some of that. We have persons who've headed GIS. We have persons who have headed trade. We have persons who have headed Accountant General, former PSs who are part of the transition lead, former ministers themselves, the likes of Franca Bernadine and so on as a transition lead in education. It has helped the ministers get a quick grasp, being able to navigate some aspects of the public service, understanding the bureaucratic arrangements, understanding some of the dynamics to strengthen and speed up bureaucratic decision-making and institutionalizing some of the manifesto commitments, some of the current projects and programs we've had a review of, a new ministry is being birthed. Honorable Andy Williams is going to lead that. He has brought a lot of his private sector understanding. We have melded it, harnessed it into a public service arrangement. We want to take a particular PS as well, who have given us a lot of refining of that mobilization, implementation, and transformation piece. So thank you, Terry, for this opportunity. We have many a Sunday where I'll come back in to discuss some of the approaches going forward when we amend the Constitution. And Deputy General Secretary, we proposing other models to have an Assistant General Secretary for Diaspora Affairs. We have a number of areas that we're working through. We're going to be taken to the convention in the next couple of years, bit by bit. So too, we'll be coming back to the Heartbeat to discuss a lot of our work on the ground, fundraising activities, reconstituting some of our committees of the party and so on. We strengthen the party for governance because governance matters to the NDC, but governance of a party is what helps a government. We govern, weak party, weak government, strong party, strong government.
Indeed.
And thank you again to all the stakeholders we thanked earlier. Again, a special thanks. We'll be coming to you. Remember, we will lead a SUSU campaign. We're going to do in a SUSU resource mobilization, build and strengthen our work. When we come to you, do be kind. Do be kind. Thank you again, Terry. Thanks to the Heartbeat team, Aquino, Neela, the other 2 brothers, and those are external. Thank you again, Honorable Prime Minister, for the opportunity to be in the transition team and to be part of the work going forward. We have a lot of party work that we're going to be carrying forward. I want to thank the chairman of the party, deputy chair, PRO, treasurer, assistant general secretaries, floor members of the party. I want to thank all the chairpersons of the constituency branches and your executives. I want to thank some of the political activists and strategists on the ground. I want to thank those in the media. I want to thank those in the public, those the labor movement, those in the private sector. We really want to thank you for some of the embrace and the opportunities you've given us to come this far. The work is endless. It is just started, but we're ready. Just like we were ready for the elections, we're ready for governance, we're ready for development and transformation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brother Larry Barry, General Secretary of the party. And time has certainly caught up with us. And look, I don't even have the time to extend my very special thanks to the General Secretary, who has worked so hard in making this NDC being now the governing party. At another time, we'll go through all the hard work of Larry Barry and several others in the party and outside of the party. Thank you all so very much. This is Heartbeat, now tuning off. See you again next week. Have a great Sunday afternoon.